Today we're going to be taking a look at the Blank RDA by Asmodus. This product was sent to me for the purpose of this review. Let's go ahead, open it up, and see what comes with the RDA. With the Asmodus Blank RDA, you are going to include an Asmodus specifications manual for the Blank RDA. Additionally, you are going to get two hex tools here. You're going to get one for the post screws and one for the 510. And inside your little accessory bag, you are going to get a spare 510 pin. The squonk pin is pre-installed on the Blank RDA. You're going to have spare O-rings, spare post screws, and Oni coils from Asmodus. Taking a closer look at the Blank RDA, you have your Delrin drip tip at the top. Removing the Delrin drip tip, it is 810. However, the O-ring is on the stem of the RDA, and there is no O-ring in the catch cup. On one side of the barrel, we have the Asmodus logo, and on the other side of the barrel, we also have another Asmodus logo. Flipping over to look at the bottom, this is a 24 millimeter RDA. Its total height is going to be 33 millimeters tall. And as I already stated, the squonk 510 pin is already pre-installed, and then you have this smaller screw here, which is for your negative post. Looking on the outside, as you can see, you probably can already tell that this is a top Airflow RDA. So the way that the Airflow works is you have this entire outer barrel that slips down, and that is actually your Airflow adjustment. So to finish showing you the Airflow adjustment, we'll need to screw it down onto something. With the RDA screwed down onto a mod, we can now go ahead and adjust the airflow. So right now that airflow is fully closed, and if we go ahead and turn it, we can open that fully. Now it is on a lock, so once it's fully open and you keep turning, it's just going to tighten down on your mod. And same thing when it's fully closed, if you keep turning, it's going to untighten off of your mod. So I really like that the cap has a locking feature on it. Let's go ahead and remove that top cap. There's what the inside looks like. This is a top airflow, and it has this peak. I believe that's going to be a peak insulator in there with those holes you see on either side, and those holes are going to match up with the top of these posts. So if this deck looks familiar, it's because it's the same C4 style deck that we saw on the C4 RDA, obviously, and then also on their other RDA that they did. The Bunker RDA used the C4 posts there, but the differences on this one is that your posts are much taller, and the reason for that is going to be that these posts meet up with that peak insulator in there, and as you can see, there's two little notches and there's two little bump outs here on those posts that meet up with that and sealed down on top of it. So true top airflow as far as the way the air comes in, and then the airflow comes out on the side of the post here. Let's see if I can grab a tool to show you. So you have these two large airflow slots right here that are going to come straight out and hit your coil, which is going to sit right here. This is a single coil RDA. You have two very nice large wicking type juice well areas on either side where your coil is going to sit, just like this. And then of course your squonk pin is there, so e-liquid is going to be coming out of the squonk pin and filling your juice well. So since this is the same style of posts as the C4, what I will need to do is I'm going to need to bend my coil legs to where they're facing in opposite directions. And to do that, I'm just going to add a half a wrap to the coil I'm using. And the coils I'm using is going to be the Vapaholics Anonymous coils. And this is going to be a Nichrome 90 3x28 gauge wrapped in 36 gauge. Ohms out to a 0.12 per set, so it's going to be about 0.2 alien for my single coil there. So let's go ahead and grab my coiling tool. So I went ahead and already opened up my post screws here on either post. You can see this little slot here, and that's where my lead's going to go in. It does have a nice little swoop up, kind of bump up, so that should hold my lead in there really nicely. So we're going to go ahead and take the coil that I have already went and made the leads facing in opposite directions. Now if I do the coil leads underneath the way that this coil is wrapped, it's not going to be facing the correct direction to put into my post. So for this, I'm just going to flip my coil over, and the leads will be coming off of the top when I insert it. So go ahead and insert one lead on that side and one lead on this side. And those hold pretty well on their own. And I'm just going to take my fingers and push on the coil leg on this side and then push on the coil leg on that side. Go ahead and line up my coil where I want it. Make sure that my lead is in there nicely. And go ahead and tighten down those posts. So now that I've got my coil positioned where I want it, I've got it raised up so that that airflow is hitting the middle of the coil and not going across the top of the coil. Actually, you can go ahead and raise this up even more. Let's go ahead and get it all the way as high as I can get it. And now that I've got that coil positioned the way that I want it, I can go ahead and clip my leads. I have already tightened down my posts. So clipping your leads, you want to make sure you cut them as flush as you can. So we'll just go ahead and get our little clippers in there. Set them right up against that metal and clip that lead. Do the same thing on the other side, right up against that metal and clip that lead. That way my coil leads are flush and not sticking out at any risk of hitting that top cap. So now my coil is glowing nice and evenly from the inside in, and it is ohming out to a 0.34, which is great for a single coil. Let's go ahead and wick it up. So wicking this guy up is going to be super simple. It's got a fairly deep juice well, but it's top airflow, so we don't really have to worry about any leaking. What we do want to think about when wicking this coil is that we don't want the coil to be popping and crackling and spitting e-liquid. So we do want to wick it really nice and tight. So I'm just using the cotton threads here and going to go ahead and wick this up. Pull the cotton through there, make sure it's nice and tight, and then I can go ahead and clip my ends. Now, personal preference on how long you want to leave your cottontails. For me, I like them kind of short, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut them even with the outside of the deck here. And then go ahead and just stuff them down into those juice wells. You can go ahead and leave the cotton a little bit thicker if you like the e-liquid to sit in your cottontails rather than free floating down there. But one thing I don't want to do is I do have this in squonking mode, and I don't want to have my cotton getting sucked into those little squonk holes when the juice return kicks in. When you squeeze your squonk bottle and the juice goes back down, I don't want my cottontails getting sucked in and blocking those holes. So that's why I leave my cotton a little bit shorter, especially in squonk mode. In dripping, it's not as big of a deal if your cottontails are a little bit longer. So now we're just going to go ahead and try to line our posts up with the inside of that top cap. You know, push down and you'll feel that it's not seated. You have a little lip there on the bottom as well on it. So you'll just give it a nice turn until you feel it pop down into place. So once you feel it pop down into place, just like that, then you know it's ready to go. So that is the Asmodus Blank RDA. Let's go back up top, have a vape on it, and I'll give you my thoughts and opinions. All right, and that was an up-close look at the Point Blank RDA by Asmodus. Now, I did incorrectly keep calling this the Blank RDA by Asmodus, but if you go to the website, you can see that they are calling this the Point Blank RDA. And in the up close, when you look at the packaging, if you look very closely, there is a point in front of the blank. So this is called the Point Blank RDA by Asmodus. And let's get right into it. What are my thoughts? Well, we're going to start with the pros. So first pro on this is going to be fit and finish, which Asmodus usually always gets a pro from me on fit and finish. They really do really well with their quality control. The way that they machine their devices are always really good. So fit and finish on this, great. Tolerances on the O-rings, threading, all of that is really good. Next pro on this is going to be the top-down airflow, which is leak-proof essentially. The way that they designed this airflow to come in from the top, go down through the posts, and come out the sides of the posts means that this is essentially leak-proof. Now, of course, if you flood the build deck and you tip it to the side, you are going to get e-liquid that can travel up those airflow holes through the posts and out the sides, but really in squonking squonking or dripping, this thing is pretty much essentially leak proof. Now, speaking of the airflow on this is quite smooth as well. Again, the 6 airflow holes at the top and the way that it's directed down through the post and out to the side of the coil leads this to have a pretty smooth airflow. I'll go ahead and let you listen to that right now. This is going to be how it sounds wide open. Really nice and smooth, very little restriction, if any at all. Now this is a single coil RDA and it has quite the reduced chamber, so you get a lot of flavor and some really good dense cloud production. I'll go ahead and let you hear what it sounds like when I adjust it to halfway. So there's what it sounds like halfway open. Again, it stays nice and smooth. It starts to restrict that inhale for you and bumps up that flavor even more. I like it about 3/4 the way open, almost a halfway open, not quite to the halfway mark. And that's been my favorite position because I do like a more restricted direct lung. And vaping it that way, for me, I get a really nice, good, strong, robust, flavorful experience as well as dense clouds. Now the next pro on this is going to be the reduced chamber posts that are on here. So the reduced chamber posts, they're great for many ways. One, it's super easy to build on this build deck. It is the same build deck that they used on the CE4 and on the Bunker RDA, so very simple to put a single coil in there. But what they did differently on this one is they brought those posts all the way up to the ceiling to meet with that peak insulator inside, and that's how it directs the airflow. But those posts also serve a purpose to reduce the chamber and increase the flavor on this RDA. So I really like how they did those posts, and it's easy to build on, and not to mention it's also easy to wick on. So you can wick this up really quickly, you can build it really quickly. Next pro on this device is going to be the concave juice well. So the way that they milled out the bottom of the deck is at a little bit of a concave angle. So when you're squonking or dripping, it's going to direct that e-liquid towards your wicks. Instead of sitting on the outside walls of the juice well, it's naturally going to flow inward towards your wicks. So I really like that as well. And the next pro on this is going to be the locking top cap. Locking top cap on here is a must feature. It makes adjusting your airflow that much easier, as well as removing the device from your mod that much easier. So big pro on the locking top cap. Now, what about cons for this device? Well, for the way that I like to vape, this device has no cons for me. But I do see a couple subjective cons for people. The main subjective con I have for this device is the drip tip. The fact that they don't include an O-ring down in the catch cup, instead they rely on drip tips that have the O-rings on the stems, means that you're not going to be able to use Goon style 810 drip tips and a lot of third-party drip tips. Now, if you use only Asmodus drip tips, of course, that's not going to be a problem. But if you're somebody like me that likes to use a lot of third-party acrylic drip tips, very few third-party drip tip manufacturers make drip tips with the O-rings on the actual tip itself. So that's a subjective con. You're kind of stuck with Asmodus drip tips with this one. Now this drip tip, I don't think it's that uncomfortable. I like the shape of it. It's very plain black Delrin. So that's my thoughts on the Point Blank RDA by Asmodus. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, click that subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, don't forget the little notification bell icon so you get notified the next time I upload a video. Thanks for watching, you guys. Bye-bye.